to thank Event Profs London for inviting us here for our very first public talk. And we'd also like to send a special thank you to the rest of the conference team, because you might have noticed that there is a conference happening at this moment, and we are very grateful because they are running around on our behalf. So to briefly introduce myself, because yeah, you might have an idea of why I'm here, but you don't have all the details. My name is Carla, and I've been an event professional for almost 8 years now. I started my career back in Italy, Sardinia, where I'm from, and I was organizing a performing art festival with a strong focus on experimental music, sometimes very weird stuff. I then decided to move to London because I was basically escaping the downfall of Italian politics, and I also wanted to enjoy as many concerts and art exhibitions that I could. And in the meantime, I also decided to attend a master's degree here in London in events and conference management, and I was being an event manager in London. As you might have guessed from all the slides, and as Natalie said, I currently work for Skills Matter, where I lead the conference team into exploring and sharing all the latest developments in tech through our portfolio of tech conferences. As you also noticed, I'm not by myself, so I'll leave the rest of the introductions to my partner in crime.
Thanks, Carla. Hi, everyone. I'm Nicole, and I manage the conferences team along with our brand new X Matter keynote evening series, basically managing and overseeing half of our content portfolio here at Skills Matter. I've also been managing events ranging from 150 to 2,000 delegates for close to 7 years now across the tech as well as the finance industry. And it's also down to me to introduce our topic of the night and what we'd like to highlight today. I had to fight a little bit for this portion, and it's for a really good reason. It's because I like to use this time to share a story about none other than my co-speaker, Carla. It's about the day we hired her. And I mean, why not, right? You just heard her CV. But in the grand circle of life, I'd also like to mention that we're both here today because we were invited by a lady who was instrumental in hiring me. So thanks, Nat. But back to Carla. So in her interview, there were many unforgettable moments. But the one that really stuck with me and got me thinking was when we flipped the tables on her and said, "So, do you have any questions for us?"
I did.
She did. It's always a telltale sign of what they're really thinking about, what they're really keen on. And so this was her question to me. Tell me about a day in the life of an event manager here. Walk me through your day here at Skills Matter. So I'd never been asked this question before, and anyone if you've been in the industry long enough, they'll tell you that you can have as many bullet journals as you want, plan your day out minute by minute, but at the end of the day, if you're in events, you're going to have random fires to put out randomly, ad hoc meetings, blah, blah, blah. So how did I answer her? But I had to, right? I mean, I had to be all profesh. So I thought about all these fires and kind of tried to prioritize them. So I said, okay, well, I start off my day with the sort of fires with the heaviest weight. So maybe our key partnerships, our keynotes, any queries they may have. Then I worked my way down to any other speaker arrangements I had to do. And then some of the amazing content that these speakers provide, I publish them on the website. So there's some website publishing and marketing the event as well. And then after that, maybe some internal coordination of logistics. And somewhere around maybe 5 or 6 p.m. toward the end of the day, you know, when my brain is pretty much switching off and I'm doing a little internet browsing, I might throw in a bit of research for that yet unknown speaker. So when I was planning today's talk with Carla, this is the memory that came to mind because of how much that answer has changed. A day in the life of an event manager today is different to what it was a couple of years ago. We make an impact now. We have a responsibility to think about the people that we want to feature on our event programs. And so And there has been change in the industry as well, and in what we've been doing. And so it all ties in with today. Today, we'd like to take the time to appreciate this change, how we've been a part of it, and how you can too. For that, over to Carla.
Thank you, Nicole.
Sure.
So, yeah. We did think about the best way to tackle such a complex and multi-layered topic. And the truth is there's not an easy way. But we decided to find a way to begin, which is data. It's always the solution. Where you don't know where to start, just use data and you're gonna have something to discuss. But I must confess, this wasn't like the ideal, because even finding data and filtering data is quite difficult. And so in the end, we decided to share with you some extracts that can be relevant for you and hopefully very useful in your daily jobs. We've also decided to share, as Nicole briefly mentioned, something that we know very well, which is our experience at Skills Matter and the knowledge that we have of our community. But let's start our journey now on this field trip with all the data that we can manage to deal with. This is a lovely graph here. And this is taken from a study conducted in the US. However, cross-checking all the data from here in the UK, we've realized that this was very relevant, so that's why we decided to present it now. And so, it's pretty evident here that the situation is not at its best. This is like a broad approach, and we decided to start with this broad picture of the presence of women in any workplace. And in this study, even tech companies are included, and the ones that we know about. And yes, while you can see here that while the gap between the presence of women at an entry level is not that big, the higher we go and the closer we get to the infamous C-suite, all the big bosses, CEOs, CFOs, etc., the bigger the gap becomes. This is quite concerning and discouraging. And on top of this, if you have a look at the progress that has been made over the years, and we're starting here in 2015, it looks like barely any progress has been made. There's a lot of 1% there. And this slow progress does come with its own issues. I don't know if you've ever heard about this funny concept of diversity fatigue. So we came across this concept while we were doing all this research, and we realized that we might have suffered from it, even without realizing. Maybe you suffer from it, but in a very simple terms, diversity fatigue is that frustration that you experience because you've been talking and talking about diversity so much, and at the end of the day, you don't see that many results. You think that your actions, they're not making a great difference. And yet I do think that all these 1% here, they do count. And I don't think we should ignore them and just feel discouraged. And I cannot ignore also all the work that in our team we are currently doing and all the progress that we've achieved. And that's why the second step that I decided to tackle is what we do at Skills Matter. So I've been running, as Nicole mentioned, all the lovely anecdote about hiring me. I've been running conferences at Skills Matter for 2 years now. And over these 2 years, I've seen a stable and consistent growth in diversity in our programs. And this is amazing. And there are some cases that are quite evident, and that's why I can mention ISCon, which is the conference happening at the moment, by the way, or Infinite Conf there, or Cloud Native London. These examples are great successes. There are other examples, though, other cases here in our all portfolio conferences, which are not that that evident. And that's why we decided to present a case study tonight. And this case study involves functional programming languages. So functional programming languages, in a very simple way, it's a way to write code. There's many languages in which you can do that. And functional programming languages communities are known to be heavily white male dominated. And that's why I isolated here the case of F# Exchange, which is one of our conferences on F#, a functional programming language. And that this highlights that in 2016, when we realized that, oh my goodness, the community is so heavily dominated by white males, we need to do something. And we did it brilliantly, because these percentages, it easily follows other percentages of the rest of the tech topics that we cover. It was an amazing result. But what happened in 2017? Why this downfall of disaster? We realized that we weren't the only one. And as much as the F# community is super tight and they love to share their knowledge, they really couldn't clone themselves and attend every single conference that they were invited to. So we were strong with this knowledge, and that's how we tackled the following year in 2018, and we brought back the ratio into the right path. And we've done that this year as well. The program is full already, and we are seeing now a steady growth. To further prove my point, I've also isolated other functional programming languages conferences with other tough audiences and community, in the sense of diversity ratios, obviously. And the reason why you cannot see any gray in the cases of Haskell Exchange or Clojure Exchange is because in 2016, the diversity ratio was 0. So it is a massive improvement what we managed to do in just 1 year, from 0 to these percentages you see here. And especially the case of Scala Exchange is a great one, because that final result that you see from last year is even above other ratios from the rest of the portfolio. So yeah, I think we are on the right path. And another proof is that here you can see some conferences, they've been newly launched. So Beyond Tech and Fullstack NYC have been launched this year, 2019. And even if they're a new launch and at the beginning everything is so difficult, from, should I put a chair here or there? Every detail is a lot of thinking. We managed to start our lineup with these results. So the bottom line is that we don't start from the bottom anymore. See what I did that? This leaves us with quite a big question. So how did we manage to achieve this? Which is our secret recipe? Yeah, Nicole, tell us about the secret recipe.
Thank you. I will dive into that. So, as Carla said, how do we tackle this? How do we address this problem? As event managers, it's in our nature. We see a problem, we got to fix it. That's just what we do. There's a problem on the floor, there's a problem in the planning, whatever. We got to attack it, we got to fix it right now. Spoiler alert, there's some things that can't be fixed per se, but that doesn't stop us trying. So here's a sample of what this team does for every conference. We run a 12-month cycle in the lead up to the event. And as I go through this timeline, I'll be covering some major research milestones, which are a big part of our everyday. We'll kick off with the close of the conference tomorrow that's currently running. So Carla mentioned we're currently running our iOS Con right now. It's the conference on all things iOS and Swift, in case anyone was interested. Little plug there. But at the end of tomorrow, we will close the event and we will launch our 2020 iOS Con. And when this happens, we will announce part of our headliners, our keynotes. And when we do this, we always aim to achieve a 50-50% diversity for these headliners. And the reason for that is, if you feature 50% white male, 50% from an underrepresented group on your keynote speaking level, other people from underrepresented groups will feel welcome to join that program as well, which is great. But this amazing mix of keynotes, especially because they are VIPs, doesn't just fall into our lap. So we have to embark on our research mission. And that begins about 1 month ahead of the launch. It runs for a couple of months, overlapping with the launch, right up to the call for papers. Now, the call for papers is our open call for anyone to submit talks to our events. And this is where we aim and hope for the best that we get people from all walks of life. So, as I said, if we've announced and hit our target for keynotes at that point, we would set the tone for the conference and other people will be willing to join and diversify our event. Why does it matter to us? Because we actually focus on more than just metrics, right? So people pay to come to our events to learn something new. And if we have different people coming forward with different backgrounds, that means they're telling different stories. So the reason why we go through all of this is because we want to enrich our content more than metrics. That said, we also follow metrics and targets, just like all of you. So we aim, as a general rule, to achieve a 40% diversity rate across the rest of the program beyond the keynotes. So let's go back to the timeline. Open the call for papers, we're encouraging submissions in, and it turns out that as much as we love to have a mix from all walks of life, like I mentioned, you end up technically usually getting veterans, return loyal speakers, people with really great talks, really great, but usually really similar to one another. And so that launches our second research milestone. We go into direct invitations where we encourage people to submit to our call so we have a greater and more balanced pool. This again runs for a couple more months. Then we hit our selections. This is where the real test comes. What makes the best lineup? Is it the most balanced lineup or is it the strongest talks? Are they the same thing? Usually that's not the case. You get, despite the direct invitations we've done, you still might get a majority of return speakers or white males that make up most of the industry. And so at this point, what the team does is we cut it off. We set a percentage, about 50%, let's say, that we want to tell the world about the program. We want to tell the world what event we're hosting with the selections, with the submissions from the call. And then the rest of the program we reserve for more in-depth research. This makes up our final research stage, which runs, as you can tell, throughout. After the selections, it's about 5 to 6 months in the lead up to the event, and that's when we delve even deeper. This sounds like a lot of research, and you're right. If you followed along that timeline, there is a lot of research, but that's what we're trying to say. We can't, as in the past, just grab the pool that we already have, recycle speakers. We have to put in the time, months if it takes it, the effort and the care into selecting who you want to feature to light up your stage. All this research, that's cool. But what goes into it? What is our magical recipe? Well, wait and see. Okay. Here we go. So we're going to start with the best team. A diverse team begets a diverse event. With every conference we run, we connect with a group of experts that are relevant to that topic. And they're part of the community. They become our focus group. And as part of the community, they have the best intel on what's hot and what's less hot. And so they are a key part of our selection process that I talked about earlier. But what is a diverse team? What are the ingredients for this? Well, in the teams that we work with, they include people who are contractors, people who have worked in companies for a long time, people who have trained under the best in that topic, people who are the best in that topic because they created the language. Some have just fallen into the topic recently. They came from another industry. Some are women, striving in a male-dominated industry that Carla touched on earlier. Some come from countries where meetups like this are few and far between, others where London pales in comparison. It's a mix, and it's this mix that begets really diverse perspectives. and that means you get a diverse lineup. Next, as event managers, you should be a part of it. So part of the research is being actually involved. Join the groups, follow the hashtags, go to the meetups that highlight women and underrepresented and people from underrepresented groups. Join the groups that give them a platform to speak or to give them an opportunity to raise their hand up so they can have more speaking opportunities. If you only surround yourself with people you know, that's the only results that you're going to get. But if you're where everyone is, you might just get a good pool. Last but not least, as obvious as it is, or not, tell the world about it. Tokenism aside, it's so easy for people to have preconceived ideas of what the industry is like or what your event is like if you're not loud about it. The number of times we've heard people say, oh, I saw a mostly white male lineup. I didn't really think you were welcoming anyone else. Or I don't really have that much speaking background because I didn't really get an opportunity. I didn't know you were interested in like new speakers as well. Is that something you're doing? So tell the world you're doing it. Go and look for the women who are well established or people from underrepresented groups who have been speaking in a while. Give them a keynote slot like I mentioned before so that you highlight the tone of your event and encourage others to participate. Find champions for the cause that you're championing as well. And with that, you might be able to join us in our mission and see the results that we've achieved, like the cool graphs that Carla mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
But now we'll just wrap up.
So to conclude this talk, we would like to finish with a hope. So we really hope that we show you enough material to prove that a difference can be made, that you have the power to change the situation. And it's not really fair to only complain about how tough it is or that the process is too slow, because if you don't make the change happen, the change is not gonna reach you. The change is not gonna be there. And it's not something that is politically correct or a phase that we're living and maybe at some point it's gonna disappear and I won't have this problem anymore. This is the new normal. This is the reality that we're living, and it's our responsibility to have our efforts into make the change. And as an event manager, I think that we are particularly lucky because we are working with a community that is really, really committed to this cause. The tech community has been championing and supporting diversity for many years now. And they're very lively and active, so they don't look fatigued to me. Why should I be that? So bottom line is that there are a lot of talks out there that tell you how bad you are and how badly you are doing in diversity and that your progress is not there yet. But we didn't want to focus on this discouraging view. We wanted to share our process. We wanted to keep the challenge there, but still show that there are processes that are working. We must be doing something right, because this is just some example of the lineups that we had in the past year, and this is amazing. So yes, keep believing that you can change the situation, and we hope you enjoyed our talk tonight. Thank you.